desired. Please note that while we strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by email to Hartford, or Selectboard at hartford-vt.org. In the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to a time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by a roll call vote in accordance with the law. As required by the open meeting law, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance of all members participating in the meeting and have those members attending remotely identify themselves to ensure that they can hear and be heard throughout the meeting. So, Kim?
Here.
Sue?
Here.
I believe Mary is absent. Ida?
Here.
Brandon?
Here.
Lanny?
Here.
I'm here and I can hear and see you. I'm participating remotely because I have COVID. Okay, our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would anyone like to lead us?
Be happy to.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lanny.
Thank you for that honor.
All right, so we'll close this portion of the select board and reopen as the local liquor control board. We have two licenses to review. The first is a renewal of Global Montello Group Corporation doing business as Jiffy Mart. That's a second-class license, a tobacco license, and a tobacco endorsement. Any questions or discussion? If not, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, it would be my honor, having surrendered my second-class license, so I no longer have to recuse myself to make this motion. I move that the select board approve the renewal of Global Montello Group Corporation doing business as Jiffy Mart, number 439 6000 Woodstock Road, Quechee, Vermont 057701 for second-class tobacco and tobacco endorsement.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second for Brandon. Any discussion? If not, I'll call the roll. Kim?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Lanny?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Okay. We have the other license. This is the renewal of Evans Group of Vermont doing business as Evans Expressmart. Any questions or discussion? If not, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Make a motion, we approve the renewal of Evans Group Vermont Incorporated doing business as Evans Expressmart, 1038 North Main Street, River Junction, Vermont 05001 for a second-class tobacco substitute endorsement.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll, and I'm going to call the roll just because, even though we're all likely to vote aye because Mary is not here. Kim?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Lanny?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. All right, so we'll close this portion of the local liquor control board and reopen as the Hartford Select Board. Order of agenda, I don't note any changes to the order of agenda. So we'll go to public comments. So we'll start with people in the room and then go to people joining us by Zoom. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. I ask you not to make any personal attacks and to address the select board as a whole, not individual members. Please identify yourself and your town or village of residence. And if you are here to speak in favor or against another item on the agenda, please wait until that time to speak. So I'll open it up.
Hi everyone, Mary Kay Brown, White River Junction. I have two questions that are related, and I have a few comments that are all related. My questions are, when do new board members attend the VLCT training on proper select board rules and processes? And related to that, is there any available documents or trainings on what the actual duties and responsibilities of a select board member are? If not, we might want to consider writing something down. The reason for those two questions is that it's very disturbing to me that at least one new member of the board seemingly has no idea what his actual duties are. I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure that as a select board member, you're supposed to be addressing town of Hartford specific issues such as roads, safe water, public safety, and similar items. Being on the board is not a free platform to express your personal opinions on politics, the US military, and all manner of other issues, national and international. All got voted on to the town of Hartford Select Board to make decisions to better the town and its residents and make it a place that everyone feels comfortable living in. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. I know that there are training opportunities available for VLCT by VLCT for members to attend, and I know that I believe some of them on the board, the new members have. Second, we have a select board. We have rules of procedure for select board members, which can be accessed, I believe, on the website. And just a reminder that select board members do not lose their right to opine on any issues they want, as long as they don't purport to speak on behalf of the select board. Okay, we'll go to the next speaker.
Can I also, excuse me, can I chime in there?
Yes.
Also, we do have a specific select board training on March 27th, which is for efficient and effective select board meetings, and with Dominic Cloud. And we've provided him with the existing select board rules and procedures that we currently have, with some annotations that one of the board members has made, and just to give a kind of work in progress. And Mike, a member of the public has said to ask you to identify yourself by name, that you said you were present.
Sorry, yes, I'm Mike Voigt, chair of the board. I am present by Zoom. Okay, we'll hear from the next speaker.
Thank you, board members. I'm Dennis Brown of White River Junction. And I keep hearing and seeing dissatisfaction with our government. I'd be the first to say it's far from perfect, but that's what we have. That's what we have, and I think we're all trying to make it better. This is a quote from Winston Churchill in 1947. Many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and war. No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. This is how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Are there any other speakers in the room who'd like to speak?
Good evening. My name is David Briggs from White River Junction, and I'm here to bring you another chapter in my pursuit of redevelopment of the Hotel Coolidge block, and just lay on a few comments by way of update and continuing to familiarize the new members particularly. I made a declaration to this board some time ago, and I'd be curious to know if you've had a chance to see that. And if you haven't, I'll send you a copy of it. So if you could find a way to signal to me that you have seen that or you haven't, I would make sure you get a copy of that. I'm in pursuit of a developer because I'm not, as I have said several times, the final qualified player of this. I'm performing as a pre-developer, and I'm in that process striving to have an announcement by mid to late summer at the very latest. So those are two reminders. One of the components of the project that expanded over the last 6 months comes out of the Hartford Energy Commission. And there is a possibility that downtown buildings could be served by a heating district using geothermal technology. I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm working collaboratively with those initiators. And I would tell you, you might keep your eye on the Vermont legislature, because a key bit of enabling legislation is about ready to come forth. And that would be a pivot point in this initiative. So those are just some handy updates for you. If you had any questions tonight, I'd be happy to try to field them, or send me on an errand and I'll get you more information.
Any questions for Dave?
Do you know what bill what the bill number is you're requesting?
Oh, I can get it for you. I know it was like 280 in the House, but it's actually coming from the Senate. I don't know what it is from over there.
That's hard to keep track of.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Is there any more comment in the room?
Hi, it's Marcy Bartlett from Wilder. Probably not. I can be loud, but
Mike, can you hear Marcy?
Hello?
I can hear Marcy.
Anyway. I wanted to speak up in favor of the board allowing hometown hero banners in our town. And I've been trying to figure out how to express my viewpoint. I've privately emailed the board. I've emailed the World War I Memorial Project folks. But sometimes a picture is better than 1,000 words. Right here is my husband's uncle. He's buried on Iwo Jima. I never knew him. He never got to get married or have children. And he didn't ask to be called a hero, he just was one. At age 55, my husband went back to school and got his nursing degree. He graduated from VTC, magna cum laude. All while working full-time and going to school full-time while we were raising our grandchildren, who were 2 and 3. My husband is my hometown hero. Here's his diploma. He does not know I brought it with me tonight, because that's the thing about heroes. They don't really think of themselves as heroes. That's why it takes us. That's why it takes us. He worked for 10 years as a VA nurse until he was assaulted by a patient and sustained a traumatic brain injury where he was no longer able to sustain the nursing process and had to retire. He does not hold that gentleman at fault. He did not know what he was doing. Dan said it was his honor to care for our vets, particularly taking care of their feet so they could walk. One of the jobs nobody else wanted to do. But that's why he's my hometown hero. There's going to be a couple of bricks on the walkway downtown. One for this gentleman, Asa Trafton Bartlett, and Daniel Bartlett, RN. They're depending on people. They're not. I am. They don't think of themselves as heroes. They just did the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. I'd just like to remind people who want to publicly comment that if you want to talk about the hometown heroes or any other item on the agenda, to please wait to when we get to that item. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Not seeing anyone in the room. Is there anyone on Zoom?
No hands up at the moment.
Okay, I don't see anyone's hands up either, so we will end public comment and go to select board comments and announcements. Laney, do you want to kick us off?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay, Brandon, anything?
I would like to just kind of speak off the cuff a little bit. bit brief. Many of you know, I made a post on social media here in the last couple days, just with some of my opinions. And I just wanted to say that to the extent I invalidated anyone's lived experience, it was never my intention to do that. We heard about heroes here in the public comment, and those stories do sound really heroic, and I think they do deserve recognition. I don't think I've done anything as heroic as those things. Anyone who read my social media post, which was about kind of the military and what I think of it, and I hope you understood that my intention was to kind of separate the honoring of people who serve in the military and have served with the support of things that the military does now. I think those are two different things, and I, to the extent that we can separate them, I would love to support folks who have served and do serve. I will say that I'm sorry to have taken up so much time in this meeting that is about town government, and I take very seriously my job running the town, helping run the town and the things it needs. It's not so much a place for political opinions. I felt like I should voice my truth. And to the extent anyone wants to talk with me about that, is curious about that, or wants to tell me their truth, I would love to buy them a coffee and sit down with, truly, I'll buy you a coffee and I'll devote half an hour or 50 minutes or however long it is to talk with you and hear about you. And because I think you would do the same for me, many of you. And so, of course, I want to return that feeling. So please reach out. My public email address is Brandon at the normal Hartford email address, hartford-vt.org. And thank you all for sharing your opinions with me the last couple of days.
Thank you, Brandon. Ida, do you have any public comment or select board comment?
Sure. I'm actually going to change the subject. I went to a meeting last night here that was about the FERC relicensing process for the Wilder Hydro Dam. And it was an excellent meeting, very well attended, great engagement from folks who really care and use Kilowatt Park and the surrounding area. So I just want to express gratitude to all the residents who came out to participate in the open comment process for the relicensing, because it's super important. And now is the one time we have in a 40-year span to sort of give direct feedback to FERC, who then oversees what and regulates what the company who owns the Wilder Dam is able to do and how they support our town and the recreation and environment surrounding the dam. And I also just wanted to thank Scott Hauser and Lori Hirschfield for leading the effort to develop a comment on behalf of the town. And we learned from the excellent person, Kathy Erfer, I believe her name was, from the Connecticut River Conservancy. She was super knowledgeable, and she was knowledgeable about the comment process. And she emphasized that if residents have input about that area that they want to have recognized by FERC, they should send it to folks in the town, so Scott or Lori, as well as, make their own separate individual comments, because repetition is really what's going to be powerful in terms of making sure our voice is heard in that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ida. Sue, any comment?
Yes, I want to put out a general apology for my terrible inabilities with my computer, which meant I couldn't get to my town email until Saturday after Dylan spent about half an hour on the phone with me. So I'm trying to catch up with those emails. I am now not closing it, so it's always up on my computer. So I'm sorry if you thought I was ignoring you. I'm trying to get through them now.
Thank you, Sue. Kim, any comment?
No, not this time.
Okay, and I do not have any comments, so we will move to appointments. We're considering the reappointment of Tom McCleary to the Parks and Rec Commission for a 3-year term beginning March 19th, 2024, ending March 18th, 2027. This is a reappointment. I don't know if Tom is in the room. If not, I'll open this to discussion and a motion. Any discussion? Yep, go ahead.
I move that we approve the reappointment of Tom McCleary to the Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term beginning March 19, 2024 and ending March 18, 2027.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second, I think, from Ida.
Yeah.
Any discussion on this? Okay, seeing or hearing none, I'll call the roll. Kim?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Lanny?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. All right. So our next item is the town manager's report. I will send it over to John, who is also attending this meeting remotely. So over to you, John.
Yes, I am, but a little bit less remote than you, Chief. I'm upstairs here at the town office, sequestered with my COVID virus, which I hope will be gone soon. So thank you for that. I'll be very brief. I wanted to mention that we had that meeting last night that Ida has just highlighted, the outreach for the FERC license renewal process for the Wilder Hydro Dam. I'll also point out that we've got some great select board training opportunities coming up. Brandon and Ida and members of staff and some boards and commissions attended a skating rink tour on Saturday with Dana Clausen and Scott Hausler and Corey Kennison, and like I said, several other members of boards and commissions interested in how the ice rink works and also its energy demands. I'll be joining Ida and Brandon this coming Saturday, if my COVID allows. I'm certainly hopeful. On Saturday, the 23rd, from 9 o'clock to 2:30 to attend the VLCT training entitled Select Board Essentials up in Fairleigh. And I'm also pleased to remind everybody that on Wednesday of next week, VLCT consultant Dominic Cloud will facilitate a select board workshop upstairs in this building at 6 o'clock, Wednesday, the 27th, on conducting effective and efficient select board meetings. Also, I'd like to give kudos to both Brandon and Ida for signing up for the upcoming open meeting law seminar in April. We do get those open meeting requests from time to time, and it's good for as many of us as possible to be well read on that subject. I'm also looking forward to getting to know these new members of the select board. I had a nice lunch with Brandon last week, and we'll soon be having coffee with Ida. Hope to get together with Sue again sometime soon, so we can spend a little time just to get to know each other. Finally, I'll just point out that we had a good discussion, I did, with the town's economic development consultant, which is in town for, I think, a week or more, to talk to as many people as they can about economic development as they work on the town plan chapter on that topic. And there was a great economic development forum at the Bugby Center about this on March 14th, facilitated by the same consultant. So that's it for me.
John?
Yes.
John, it's Sue. You probably didn't hear me talk about my terrible failure with email. You have a pile of them for me. I'm joining you Saturday. I will not be outdone by these two.
Oh, good.
No, I want to do everything you just talked about.
Okay, great. That was exactly why I said it. I'm willing to use peer pressure when necessary.
Well, I'm glad that they're timed before you said it. They all went out today.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for John? Okay, doesn't look like it. Thank you very much, John. Now we're going to move on. We have informational remarks on the Hometown Heroes project. Joe Major asked us last meeting if we could find some time. to get this on the agenda so that we could learn more about the proposed project. So I will hand it over to Joe or to Dennis or whoever might like to speak. I know in our packet we had some slides. I don't know if we're able to get those up on screen there, but
Chair,
yes, go ahead.
is this a informational presentation? There's no vote on this?
This is
Project.
an informational presentation. The people who sent us the info about this included a proposed motion, but it was not warned as part of the agenda. So I think we're going to do this as an informational session tonight. I know that we've gotten emails in favor of this and people who have questions and people who aren't in favor. So I think having some information about what's proposed will help us as we do our work going forward. So I'll turn it over to Joe or Dennis or whoever is at the mic.
Would it be possible to show the 4 or 5 slides that I had? I have it on a flash drive if you don't have it.
I might be able to pull it up, Dennis. Give me 1 second.
You have what I sent, or would you like to check?
I have what you sent in the email.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up.
Yeah, if we can get that, it's in the packet. So if we can get it on screen, I think that would be helpful for everybody.
Oh, it's in the packet. Just your email.
Well, while you're working on that, I'll get started. Yes, Dennis Brown of White River again. Thanks for putting this on your agenda. I'm a Army veteran who spent most of his time fighting the Cold War and also deployed to Honduras and Southwest Asia during Desert Shield and Desert Storm back in 1990-91. We are here to present the Hometown Heroes Banner Project. This was initiated to the select board or by the select board back in 22 during the 24 budget cycle, the one that we're in now, and supported. Since then, a committee was formed and we've been working hard to bring this project to fruition. First, we discussed goals and processes. Then we talked about who we'd like to honor and decided that all honorably discharged veterans and first responders would be eligible for this. A lot of thought went into this, and we decided a veteran is a veteran, because when you get signed up or drafted, you don't know where you're going to go or serve. It might be stateside, or it might be in the worst possible conditions imaginable. The committee has created an application and will soon be posting it on the listserv and Facebook. Once applications are received, the committee will select from the applications, and our goal is to start with 12 that we would like to honor this year. If more requests are received, then these will be held for next year or years. We're hoping to present diversity on these banners. We'll be looking carefully at covering different time periods, genders, races, branches of service, and to spread this out. Our hopes are to apply these banners on light poles in our town, in our downtown to start. This makes a lot of sense because the light poles are there and they already have the brackets for the banners that would hold them. From the input that we've had, it would be great to have other things on light poles down there, like welcome to Hartford banners or some other message, some positive thing. Or there's been suggested talking with planning and development and Parks and Rec about possibly having hanging flower pots down there. I don't think it would be a great idea to concentrate these all in one spot. I think it would be better and more attractive if they were spread around the banners. We are intending on having QR codes or links so that somebody could look at these banners, tourists or whoever, and find out more history of whatever the family or the person is willing to share. Things like their unit, their MOS, their military occupational skill, and anything again that they're willing to share. It's a chunk of history. This way, as people and tourists are walking around our downtown and want to learn more about these, they'll be able to click on a code or a link to find more info. While people are drawn to this, we expect they'll also be patronizing our businesses too. We are hoping to have at least one banner that businesses that support the project will be listed. People may also donate. This will provide some funding for future banners. We hope that local businesses will help fund this as well as additional town funds from time to time, especially if this spreads to more villages in the future. And we hope it will. The committee talked extensively about how to fund this project. One thought was to charge the family. Our committee determined that the family of the honoree has already sacrificed enough. So we chose to use the committee's money from what was granted by the town and additional fundraising by each banner. I know that some select board members have reached out to me with questions to learn more about this project, and that's been great. I really appreciate that. Hopefully I've answered these questions. It is troubling reading in today's listserv that one board member has already made up his mind to not support it before this meeting. When I was on our select board, right where you folks are sitting, I tried to keep an open mind to everything that was coming at us for us to weigh on. And I'd like to remind board members it's your job and responsibility to represent all of us. This means the wealthy, the homeless, the LGBTQ community, men, women, the young, the elderly, and its veterans, everybody. So this morning, this got personal for me because I felt my brothers and sisters were attacked, in arms were attacked. So I hate to duplicate what Marcy did earlier, but I brought a little something I thought might exhibit just a little bit. This is about my Uncle Floyd. He was killed in France in 1944 during World War II. There's a picture of him. A picture of him, a little better. These are telegrams that the family received. This top one is one that said he'd been injured. And then the other one says, we regret to inform he's been killed. And he was awarded this Purple Heart here, if you know what that is, posthumously. Yeah, he's now resting in the Quechee Cemetery. His generation has passed away and was given to me. This was given to me. We have this in our dining room as a reminder of ultimate sacrifice. I never got a chance to thank my Uncle Floyd for giving everything he had for us. But I'm hoping projects like this will help thank him and everyone else like him that gave us what we have today, freedom. We are very excited about this Hometown Heroes project. It's another way of saying thank you to those that have served and protected us. And this will be the first of its kind in the Upper Valley. They're frequent in New York. I've seen them. I think I've seen them in northern Vermont. I've seen some in New Hampshire. We'd appreciate your support as we move this special new project forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Joe, do you plan to speak as well?
Yes, I'm just gonna let Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. I think that was incredibly eloquent. I will say this. I am incredibly naive. Because when I started this, I did not anticipate the incredible controversy. In my mind, I thought, let's say thank you to these people. And all of a sudden, this became that we were celebrating the military complex. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. Brandon, you said yourself that there was a separation between the military and those individuals that we would like to thank. Do tell you a story. I don't know if you know this, but during the Vietnam era, if you were drafted into the Army, there was a television show. And then what would happen is you would see a number. And if that number corresponded with your number, you were drafted. So there was a 19-year-old here in Hartford that was in front of the television waiting to see if he was drafted. His number appeared on the television. He never had any military experience, never shot a gun, anything like that. And that 19-year-old, well, 8 months later, was in South Vietnam. Now he's lucky because he only had to do one tour and he came back. So he came back and he was stationed at Fort Dix for a little bit and then he went home, but he had his uniform on. And while he had his uniform on, going back home, there was a drunk man on the same plane. Called him a baby killer and spat on him. After he was discharged honorably, for over 50 years, he served this town and the youth of this town. As a matter of fact, he still does. If you go over to Hartford High School, you'll see him at 7 in the morning opening up the gym for the kids. If you were in Barry, you would have saw him on the bench as an assistant coach for that basketball team that was the first basketball team since 1933 to get to the state finals. His name is Downtown Gilbert. You all know. He, in actuality, protested after he got it. But if you ask him if he was proud of his service, he'll tell you he was every day and twice on Sunday. These are the people that we are honoring. It isn't the military complex. You won't see M1 Abrams tanks come down Main Street. We are honoring the people that we say thank you to, because when you lay your head down at night, these were the people that kept us safe. And what's missing here as well, because it's all been about veterans, and we absolutely have to do that, but we're also talking about our firefighters and our peace officers, because they keep us safe as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Can you hold on for 1 second? I just have a couple. And I know the board might as well, before we get to more public comment. So, you know, at the end of the day, this is about putting banners up in White River. I don't think I'd be hard pressed to believe that anyone doesn't, support the veterans. We're talking about putting banners up downtown, how they look aesthetically, how long they're up, where are they going to be located? For me, those are some of the more relevant questions that I would have. And if you could give me some background on sort of the actual logistics of it, and you may have already, I think that would be helpful for me as I consider this. Thanks.
Much like what Dennis said, that we want to put them on poles downtown. The infrastructure is already there. The bracketing is already there. One of the reasons why we wanted to do that, because quite frankly, it is the most visible part of our community. We are also, and we do not want to necessarily, as Dennis said, just take up the entire street. We want to put different banners, welcome to Hartford, put flowers, whatever, and work in conjunction with Parks and Rec to do that. We're also working with Lori Hirschfeld to make sure that our I's are dotted and T's are crossed as far as planning. You had another question?
I think those are the well, I guess how long you
The length of time. I think initially we were going to go Memorial Day to Veterans Day, but then we shortened it because one of the things that we wanted to have on is the QR codes. And the reason we wanted to have the QR codes on because we wanted to make sure that we told these people's story. That's so important that when you walk down the street, that you know the story and why these people decided to put service above self.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I'll open it up to the board for any questions, discussion. I think, Kim, you may have to kind of moderate since I can't really see everybody. So go ahead.
Yes, Dennis, I put it up and then I took it down because I thought people would want to see you, but I can put it back up if you would like the slide deck back up.
Yeah, it's just short. I just.
Yeah, no, I
exhibit
totally. All right.
Yeah, this is more or less a sample. I think we've covered the narrative of that, but if you could go to the next one. I just wanted to exhibit to everybody that we have a lot of military stuff right here in Hartford. We've got 4 outstanding things. We've got the Naval Reserve Center, we've got the National Guard Reserve down by Maxfield. We've got the Vet Center, which I highly recommend for everybody. They've helped me tremendously. They came and visited my unit upon departure and invited us there, and I've been going there ever since. So that's a long time ago, but I still go. And then foremost is down here, the VA. We have people from all over New England coming to our VA to visit. These are military veterans. And if you have any questions or you don't believe some of the things that we're telling you, some of the sacrifices, go there sometime and go around the hallways and see people with missing limbs and so forth. And then there's other injuries you can't detect that are mental. But if you spend any time there, you'll probably quickly see some of the sacrifices that have been made for us. Next slide, please. And then we also have all these different veterans groups and organizations. We've got Post 84 American Legion. I'm the commander of that. We have Post 26 here in Hartford, American Legion. We have the VFW Post 2571. We also have a chapter of the Disabled American Veterans here. I think that's all. Well, there's just one wrap up thing, but well, I can. So yeah, these banners are to honor those veterans and first responders that have served our nation and community. They've worked and sacrificed with selfless service for us to keep us safe, free from tyranny, and protected us locally. And I think the last one's just a wrap up, maybe. And just that we're asking for your support. Thank you again.
My name's David Briggs, White River Junction. I'd like to add to this commentary. It's a perspective, and I'd like to say hats off to Dennis and his committee for including the first responders, because they are literally hometown heroes.
They're all their help.
But here's a perspective. You've heard some of the other stories. My grandfather was an artilleryman in France in World War I. My dad was a seagoing Marine who was combat tested on a battleship in World War II and was among the first Marines to step foot on Japanese soil. Both of these guys were farm boys from Thetford. They weren't professional soldiers. They were loyal to the country and went according to orders. Myself, I was commissioned in 1968 in the Corps of Engineers and had orders cut for Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam, and sent to, of all places, St. Paul, Minnesota, where I got lucky. And I spent 3 years there instead of my year in Vietnam, just by chance. While I was there in the Twin Cities, I was called a baby killer on the streets of Minneapolis. I thought that was rude and unusual. And then years later, one of my 3 sons spent a career in the US Navy where he qualified for and went through the first round of Navy SEALs training. So we have that kind of background in our family. I'm not too thrilled when people say thank you for your service, because I didn't sign up looking for a thank you. My dad didn't, my grandfather didn't. I will tell you, it feels good when you're at an event and somebody says, if you're a veteran, stand up. That feels good. But I don't really need to be thanked because I didn't sign on that way. It wasn't a quid pro quo. I also feel that Vietnam was one of those really bad situations where they turned us as patriots into pawns. It was a bad deal. And I think that's a great reminder. I feel bad every day for my mates who didn't make it back or made it back diminished. So I think these banners are good. And part of the reason, as you can see, we're not stereotyped as veterans. We're diverse. And diversity is an important thing. It's not just a good idea, it's a mandate. So by honoring first responders and veterans, I think we're contributing to that commitment, that diversity. I encourage you to work with Dennis on this project.
Thank you, Dave. Does board have any questions? Got someone coming on the board.
Hi, do you want me to talk now?
Yeah, go ahead. Just identify yourself, please.
Okay, my name is Lauren Emerson. I'm a resident of White River Junction. And yes, I had 2 uncles who died in World War II. And I have a brother who died in Vietnam. You know, people call me a Gold Star sister for that. And when I moved to White River Junction about 20 years ago, one of my first thoughts was to volunteer at the VA, which I always used to do when I was in college. But what I realized was that if my brother had made it back from Vietnam, if he was in a wheelchair and had been injured or was in the condition those guys, some of those guys up there are, he would have made it fun to be in a wheelchair. He would have done something to make it be better. And I absolutely appreciate all the energy that has gone into this project. But I do like the idea that along with military people, the first responders will be honored. But I just know that my brother would have not wanted to have his picture up on a banner in a town instead of doing something for all those living people that are still living with the results of these wars. And I just, the banners, I've seen them in other towns that I've driven through on the way to Maine or New Hampshire, and there is definitely a sameness to them. You get to a town like that, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of banners that all kind of look the same. I really feel the best tribute to all the veterans and all these others is to have something, maybe including their pictures, maybe even these banners, which are vinyl, which would not be my choice of anything these days. But put them in a place where they can be reflected on, not just all up and down the streets. And it's true that White River Junction has brackets on all their light poles for banners. Here is this town full of artists and art and history, and all that could be being celebrated with banners on those poles. And it would make it feel like the diverse town it is, instead of just more red, white, and blue. I feel that absolutely it's good to honor all the veterans and the first responders, but the way we honor them should be in deeds and maybe in other ways besides banners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Board, do you have any questions for anyone or discussion?
Do you want to take one more public comment first?
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, Mike, I'm happy to defer to board questions. I had some questions too, but I can wait.
If you want to make a statement, go ahead, and then we'll
Well, yeah, sure. So Ally Tufenjan, White River Junction. Good to see you all. Couldn't keep me away for too long. I did have a couple of questions, and then I might have a comment for folks who are presenting. So first, I was just refreshing myself on the initial discussion of when this came up in the board meeting back in January 2023, when this was being considered for the fiscal year 24. And one of the, like, some different ideas were tossed around like Black History Month was mentioned at one point for this project. There was also, I think maybe Joe mentioned, the idea that there would be more, a lot of community involvement in terms of actually picking a wider range of who was on the banners besides just veterans and first responders. So I was just curious, just to hear more, if you could speak to how this has evolved since then. I know it might be a long answer, but just to clarify maybe how it has shifted since the initial discussion would be helpful.
I think I can help with that, Al. Thanks for the question. So I think the true answer is I don't know enough to know yet, but the idea that I think the committee has been working on and hearing and meeting with Lori and Scott and so on was to have like a hometown banner and then having another banner, whether it's Black History Month or Juneteenth or whatever, welcome to Hartford or anything we want to put up there. Welcome to the Hartford Arts Community. Someone mentioned about the arts community. So I would think it would be very complimentary to have one of these and whatever other banner and I know Lori talked about having hanging flower pots. I had wondered a little bit about the hanging flower pots. I think it looked great. Seems like a maintenance nightmare though. I don't know who would water those or how that would be handled. But they have to be watered regularly, so I don't know if we want to do that or not. But the hopes is to get our board's blessing on this to move forward. I mean, we already have the money to do this and it's been granted and all that sort of thing, but I knew there was controversy and whatnot, so I want to get it out there so we can figure this out so we move forward. Hopefully. I'm imagining that we'll work with Parks and Rec and Planning and Development, maybe DPW, certainly the town manager, and sort that all out and come up with a really, hopefully, attractive plan. I have a lot of trust in Lori and Scott and all that planning and organizing and you know, would be collaborative. And so that's my answer to that. Yeah.
When I originally proposed this, to veterans, we opened it up to first responders as well. And that was the central focus of what I wanted to propose and move forward with. So that's pretty much it. I mean, there was no nuance to it or anything like that. You had, please, you had another question or?
Oh, no, I can make a comment. Thank you for.
Okay.
Both of your answers.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Ally. Ally, just
Yeah.
before you start, John, at some point, could you look in to see if we have a banner policy? I know we have a flag policy, and if there's anything we need to do before we put up any banners. Just I don't expect you to know now, but just if you can check that. Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, please. So one of the first things that I did, because I didn't know how that worked or if it could work, is I met with Scott and Lori on this, and Lori advised that we don't need a permit for this. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that part is all set. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I'm back again. Ally Tufenjan, White River Junction. when this came up for tonight's agenda, the first person I thought of was my grandfather, William Frankel, my grandpa Bill. He served in World War II as a corporal in the Marines, 3rd Battalion, serial number 425118. He did 3 D-Day landings and was a radio operator. And the World War II Museum actually sent my mom his files. It was like a 93-page document. I will tell you, if you want to have a good cry, look through a loved one's war service records. That'll do it. I was looking through that last night. And I was remembering when I was little, I did this drawing for him. I did like an eagle and American flag. It was supposed to be this like peace war motif, thinking like my grandfather served, you know, he's gonna love this. And the letter he wrote back, it was very clear he was not for the war, and he was not proud of it. And I remember feeling really upset, you know, just hurt and sorry that I felt like I had caused him pain. And most of what I learned about what my grandpa thought about the war and serving wasn't through him, it was through my mom, because he wouldn't talk about it. So I learned that he suffered from physical injuries, severe PTSD from the experience, and it was actually because of that that he devoted the rest of his life to working in psychology and working with other folks who you know, had severe PTSD, folks who were veterans, AIDS patients, folks who had been through trauma. And I know, you know, my grandfather's experience is not the only veteran's experience. I know my grandfather wasn't born here, he didn't live here, but he has a granddaughter who lives here now and is thinking about what would be the best way to honor his legacy and also others' legacies who have done an unthinkably huge, brave thing for all of us. And I know that seeing banners around town, I think, would actually make him deeply sad and frustrated, because he didn't feel glory from the experience. He didn't feel that pride. He felt a lot of pain. And I think he would ask, isn't there something more meaningful that we could do to honor their profound service and sacrifice? So some ideas come to mind might be, you know, maybe there's a pool of funds for veterans, for first responders and their families to ensure that, you know, they want to purchase a brick at the new war monument that's coming up, which is fantastic, or another item of honor or recognition, that those costs would be covered. Perhaps the war monument is a more in-depth site for that education to, you know, honor our town's veterans service and their legacies and their impact. Maybe there's also a pool of funds that's dedicated to helping veterans and first responders and their families build generational wealth. For instance, you know, some people seek out the military because it is very much their calling, and others seek it out because it's an economical way to enter the workforce and get skills training, but it might not be their first option or first choice. So a pool of funds could help support those folks and their families to help them pursue whatever economic and job opportunities they wish for. So it's actually with my grandfather in my heart and deep respect for those who have served and who serve us so honorably. It's actually for that reason that I would hope we would invest time and resources in a manner that honors them in a more meaningful way than these banners. So I greatly appreciate and really do respect the work that's gone into it thus far. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie. We have a hand up on Zoom. Maybe we'll hear that, and then it looks like we have someone in the room too. But if we want to bring over DF, Jam, if you can do that, and then we'll get to the comment in the room.
Hi there, Dan Fraser, Hartford, Vermont. A few questions about this project. I think it's a great project, and a lot of respect for veterans. Many generations of my family have served in the armed forces, the Air Force, the Army, Cheyenne Mountain at the Pentagon during 9/11, buried in Arlington National Cemetery, instructors at the Air Force Academy. So a lot of respect for all the veterans. I have a few questions though. I want to know who makes the approval for who's on the banners. Is that this committee, or is it go to the committee and then to the select board? I think that's important. And are these banners for just residents? And does residents mean if they were Hartford resident at the time they entered into service, or if they're residents now? I think there needs to be some questions answered so that it's very clear prior to establishing this program as to how the criteria is involved. I also would like to point out for transparency, full transparency, I would like to ask that Lanny recuse himself from this, since he is, to the best of my knowledge, a relative of Mary Kay and Dennis, who are part of this committee. I think it would be inappropriate for him to vote on this. And I think it would be important that everyone know that connection. So I'd like those questions answered, please.
Thanks, Dan. We'll try to get answers to your questions and we'll follow up with you. I think we have one person in the room who's ready to speak. And I see Dennis getting up, so whoever wants to talk, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again, Dennis Brown, White River. So who slept? So I was new with forming committees and working on all this. So again, like I mentioned earlier, I've gotten with Scott Hausler and Lori Hirschfield. And then I also talked to our town manager about this. He was very new at the time. I think he'd only been here a week or two. And we didn't talk a lot about this, but I did want to find out what his vision was for this type of thing. And he can help me if I'm misquoting him, or I won't quote him because I don't remember exact words, but his thought, I believe, was that this should be the committee that decides this, that the board, the select board would not have involvement in that part. And so it would be separate of the town. I think he wanted to not have the town responsible for that. Or, you know, there's plenty of people that have claimed to be veterans that weren't. So we're planning on checking their discharge papers to make sure they're valid. Because some people say, you know, I'm a big war hero and whatnot. They weren't. And so we're going to try to avoid that by screening their discharge papers. They'll be redacted. We won't see the social security numbers, date of birth, and that sort of thing. But we will see what awards they were given, their medals and their time served and so forth with that. It's called a DD 214, anybody that is wondering. So is this just residents? Well, I don't know that we defined it exactly, but we did say residents, but I don't think we said when. So yeah, I have a neighbor that passed away a couple of years ago that he served in World War II too. He wasn't from Hartford when he served, but he lived in Hartford the rest of his life. So I would hope that if the family or whoever wanted to put him forth, that we'd consider that being a resident. I'll let board member Collins answer the last question there. I don't think it would be a problem, and I don't know this, but I think he's the only veteran on the board. So I value his ideas and comments towards that. And if I could say one last thing, there's been a couple of comments about some folks that would rather not see their family on these. And so we're not just going to grab pictures and put them up and put info up. These will be submitted by family members or even the person that wants to be honored. So nobody will be put up there that hasn't had that, you know, put forth by a family member or the individual themselves. Thanks again.
Thanks, Dennis. Dan, do you still have your hand up just before we get sorry to the person in the room? Nope, that his hand's down. So what, his hand's up.
No, Dennis answered my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and we have someone at the microphone if you'd like to speak.
Yes, Susanna Betty, White River Junction. I just wanted to show my support for this project. One of the reasons I wanted to come is when I spent a lot of time on the road going through small towns, specifically in New York State, and I'm always incredibly moved when I see the banners. I don't know any of these soldiers, but it puts a faith to the ultimate sacrifice, and not everyone would give their life to defend their country. But I'm sincerely moved whenever I see these faces. And I think it's wonderful that the committee is open to having other types of banners. So it wouldn't just be soldier after firemen or whoever, but it would be a gentle approach. But thank you for wanting to honor those who have given their lives for their country. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the board if anyone has comments or questions. I'd like us to be mindful of the time that we schedule for this, as it is informational only tonight. I see Heidi's up if Heidi wants to speak, and then if the board has any discussion or questions, I think it would be good to move on to that. So go ahead, Heidi.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening. My name is Heidi Dutch. I'm from White River Junction, Vermont. My father and aunts and uncles have also served for our country. I did put some interest into the bricks in Memorial Park, but I believe that these flags would mean so much more. It would bring us together. This town is all about inclusivity, but here we are trying to fight for something that is going to support and bring our town together. But I'm hearing from some seated and past select board members that this is not a good thing. So I know banners and flags are different, but at the very last meeting, you all, well, the majority of you, I'm not sure if all, voted in support of flying the pride flag out in front of our building yet again this year. And if that is allowed with all the pride flags in town during that 1 month, I feel as if we should show respect for the people that are either born or grew up here for the majority of their life to be respected also, not just military. And I just ask you all to seriously consider this moving forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Board members, any questions or comments before we? Well, Dennis is back. Then we're going to go to the board because we do need to keep with our schedule. So Dennis, please go ahead, and then to the board, I'll ask you all to chime in.
We did supply a proposed motion for your consideration.
It wasn't warned though.
Yes, it wasn't warned.
Right.
And I know you supplied it, but we need to agree to put it on an agenda. So this is informational tonight, particularly since Mary's gone. We don't have a full board, which could certainly end up in a tie vote, which doesn't really get us anywhere. And I think we're just beginning to hear from the public, both pro and con. So we're going to take up any eventual decision at a later meeting. So this is informational tonight. Thanks, Dennis. Anyone on the board have questions or comments?
Comment. May I go?
Yes, Sue, please go.
Okay. So unbeknownst to me, when I woke up this morning, I probably spent 4 hours in discussion with various people about this today. People who were very upset, and it's more consideration I've probably given this topic in most of my life. The thing that concerns me that I'm hearing here is I think that generally as a culture, we do not honor death. We run from it. We want everything to be nice and happy. And my family served every generation. My father's the only one in his family who didn't, because he was 17 when World War II ended. His nephew was killed there. I had cousins come back from Vietnam, shattered shells of themselves. So this has been a constant presence in my life and in my family. I believe in honoring death. People have made the ultimate sacrifice here. Why would we not want to honor them? I don't understand that. And yes, it's difficult and it hurts and it's part of life. So I hope we will be very, very careful in the consideration here about what we're going to say we will and won't do. I've liked this project since I heard about it, but I never gave it so much thought as today.
Thank you, Sue.
Is there any more comment or questions from the board?
I'd like to comment, Mike.
Yes, please.
Kim had her hand up, I believe.
Oh, no, please. Any order is fine.
Go ahead, I'll go after you.
Okay. I think what Dennis said earlier was really apt, that we are all trying to make things better in the way that we know how. I'm thankful for you, Dennis, and for you, Joe, that you're very clearly passionate about this town and various things, you know, things that you really believe in. So like, we're all lucky to have you. And I also believe that we up here on the board should represent everyone. I agree with you on that. And I think also that that includes folks like me with the opinions that I have about the way our country has treated war. And you know, like also the 14 people who wrote to me today in support of what I said online. You know, they actually outnumbered the folks who wrote to me saying that they disagreed with me for once. So like, there are folks like us out there, and you know, I feel like someone should represent them, and I'm happy to. I want to say that I'm not really an outsider to this, this being service to the country and the military. My great uncle Kent died flying a fighter jet over France, and he's buried there. My best friend from high school, Wes Ruth, went to serve in the Iraq War. I mean, he and I protested the George W. Bush campaign when we were in high school. We were the only protesters there in Chillicothe, Ohio, protesting very specifically the Patriot Act, right? Which took away a lot of our freedoms of communication, really, or freedoms to not be spied on. But he went to serve and he came back really different. And I've supported him the whole way. My Uncle Tim, you know, he fought in Vietnam and he came back really different. So like, I understand the sacrifice, and I would never question the sacrifice anyone's sacrifices. But I had another friend who was a veteran. His name was Rory Galler, and he served with Pat Tillman. You may have known Pat's story, NFL player. He went over there and was killed. Rory served pretty much very close to Pat, was good buddies with Pat. And when Pat started questioning the war, Rory questioned it right with him. And then Pat got killed and Rory was beside himself. So when he got back here, he walked across the country from right to left and raised money for Pat's foundation. But Rory told me, Rory's an editor, book editor, and a friend of mine. Rory told me the best way to serve veterans for their sacrifice is to make sure no one else suffers their fate. And I really took that to heart. And that's what I've been trying to do ever since I heard that from him. You know, again, there's no question of folks' sacrifices, and there's no question of your trying to do good. I recognize that that's what you believe. I'm just trying to do good in a way that I believe. And I will work to ensure no one, as far as I can try, to ensure no one else has to make that sacrifice. So, you know, I heard that that we want to fly the banners from May 27th to November 11th. And you know, that would basically brand the downtown with this for the whole time. And I think of the high schoolers who would see that every day. And of course, I was a dissident high schooler, right? But there are a lot of folks who aren't, you know, high schoolers. And if I can prevent one of them, just one, from dying in a war, no matter what war, I will consider my very slight opposition to this very particular project a success. I love the memorials. You guys have worked so hard on that. They're so great. And I will help in honoring veterans in any other way, I think. Most other ways I can imagine, but not this one. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Brandon. Kim, did you have something?
very
I
slight
have,
opposition to this very particular project
All right,
of 6
Dennis
cents.
was kind enough to answer
I
some
love
questions that I
the
had, and I
memorials.
have
You guys
a
have
couple
worked
of
so
follow-ups and a comment on that. In regard, the first question I had asked was if we had a light pole policy similar to the one that we have, which is the flag pole policy. And Heidi, just for reference, the pride flag was requested by 1 flag for 1 week, not 12 flags for 6 months, as also not, you know, I'm anticipating, are the American flags gonna be on the Green Mountain poles from Memorial Day until Veterans Day this year and every year also?
The first part of your question, yes, they would be Memorial Day to Veterans Day, just after. And when we did this, we did it getting a state permit. That was good for 3 years. This will be the 3rd year. So I'm hoping it will continue. That will have to be renewed.
Okay. I'm just referencing, because there had been a group that Vital Communities was considering funding like an art banner in the downtown that we've talked about since 2022. And in those conversations, Lori had responded in November of 23 in this ongoing conversation that that was at that point, the Hometown Heroes had been introduced on some level. And she said, given that there are other interests in banners in town, on town street light poles, the next step may be consideration of a town policy adopted by the select board. Things to consider include, but not limited to, our compliance with state statutes, types of banners, locations, how long on display, if more than 1 banner design in an area simultaneously, if rotating banners by location and or time of the year, and how all the above are decided. Given this is on the town right of way, I would think that DPW would be involved and perhaps other departments as well. So first and foremost, I think we need to establish this banner policy. I think that would make sense. Personally, I'm not in favor of the vinyl banners in general, just because I think it's toxic to produce them. They're have a 3-year lifespan and then potentially end up discarded in the landfill. I think
Can I add to that, please?
Yeah.
So our hopes was to display the banner for the summer months. And then upon the end of that is to turn that back over to the honoree or the honoree's family.
That's great.
So that would be that. They may throw it in landfill, but we're planning on returning it.
And then potentially add new banners with new veterans and and also I just want to mention that there's a the legislature is very likely to pass that Public Works Department members will also be considered first responders. I think it's in this session that they're hoping to pass that out. So just keep that in mind in terms of first responders. Dennis answered my questions about what the criteria was for a person being on a banner, who decides, which we've talked about that already. Is the permission of the family? We answered those. What are the proposed quantity, durations of the banners? And one of the other questions, who are the stakeholders and how do you reach them? And you said, I think just about everyone is a stakeholder, as this is a public space. We will advertise this project on the listserv, Facebook, and outreach to veterans groups, the fire department, police department, etc. We're hoping to reach out to local businesses that may wish to support and donate to this. And I think another question I would have is, who are the stakeholders that are not just being represented, but are going to be seen? And I guess I was expecting a different answer to that question, but I'll address it.
It put me to the test, but I first thought about that question and thought, who wouldn't be a stakeholder in this? And so I guess I summed it up with just about everybody, because it's all our public space. So that's why I answered it that way.
Yeah, when I think of a stakeholder, I think of someone who might have an opinion on the project too.
Yeah.
So then, is there any formal support from either like the VFW or the American Legion or any of the other groups?
No, not at this time. I'm sad to say. and I hesitated mentioning that I was the commander of Post 84. I'm here as the chair of the committee. I'm not really representing, I'm also a member of the VFW. And so I'm not representing those entities, but I think I would hope that when we got approved and got past all this and it involved putting them up or taking them down or maintaining them or whatever, that we might get some help from them, because really we only have a very small committee, and if we're going to be putting these up, that'd be very labor intensive. I can imagine, I know one member of my post has a 14-foot ladder, and it's probably going to be hot in May when they go up and cold in November when they come down, if the solid works goes forth. So I'm not getting any younger, let's put it.
None of us are. And I mean, I honestly, I think if there is a policy in place that it could potentially be a service of Public Works Department or Parks and Rec that would be responsible for, you know, the rotation of and installation of banners.
Yeah,
So it shouldn't just rely on you 6 people.
Well, I just thought that was an extra burden to the town that's already, you know, well spoken for and short-staffed in many cases. And so I wasn't going to ask that. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, the fire department probably has a nice ladder truck, $1 million one, I think, if I remember right, that we just bought recently. And I would love to have gotten their help, but I thought it was a tall ask. They're already taxed pretty well anyways. And so I thought it wouldn't be that big a deal to have us 6 members or whoever else wants to help do this and put them up and take them down in the fall.
Okay, I have some follow-up on that, but I won't try to take too much time. I'm gonna just read something I wrote this afternoon based on our conversations and to express that my objections to this are not, it's related to the aesthetics mostly. It is because when I do drive through other towns and see this, I don't think of it as a special tribute. I think of it as a package of something that was purchased that our service members and first responders, that we are such a special place that we could come up with a more special way to honor these people than anyway. So I'm going to just read this couple of things and then I'll leave it at that. During 3 recent economic development meetings, the phrase creative economy was referenced multiple times regarding White River Junction. Emphasis was repeatedly placed on supporting the village's identity as an arts community. There is a wealth of artistic resources within the downtown area which could be utilized to highlight the creative culture that many entrepreneurs have fostered for decades. Purchasing templated vinyl banners from a national company which mass produces their products in towns across the country would detract from the innovative charm that distinguishes White River Junction from other areas and which attracts visitors from near and far. The production process of vinyl banners is incredibly toxic and they have a lifespan of 3 years, after which you've just told me they're not discarded, they're given to the families, which is great. I believe there are better, more objectively attractive and environmentally sustainable ways to honor our hometown heroes with something like hanging planters or planted trees with plaques commemorating the service members and first responders. Better yet, a reflection garden or tastefully designed permanent kiosk in Veterans Park would be a great and sustainable alternative to commercial grade manufactured vinyl banners. While not all White River Junction business owners live in Hartford, by choosing to locate their unique shops, restaurants, galleries, museums, educational institutions, and services in our town, they also are stakeholders in concerns relating to the aesthetics of the village. I don't believe the Hometown Heroes Committee has reached out to the downtown business community at large. On one afternoon last week, I spoke with 32 people from 28 businesses in White River Junction. I asked if they had a preference for Hometown Heroes banners or hanging plants on the many light poles in the downtown. Of the 32 people, 30 preferred hanging plants, 2 preferred Hometown Heroes banners, one of which said both. 7 people said they would support the banners if they were on display for federal holidays, including Memorial Day and Veterans Day weekends only. Clearly, this is not an exhaustive poll, and I did not include my own opinion in those. I want to acknowledge that some folks are not comfortable opposing a request from veterans for fear of being perceived as unpatriotic or lacking respect for our military service members. This is a gross mischaracterization, which I have been characterized as personally, when in fact many people can and do hold our active and former service members and first responders in very high esteem, while also not wanting to decorate our downtown with individuals whose achievements cannot be fully appreciated with a photo and dates of service suspended 8 feet above the sidewalk. I'll end there.
Thank you, and I've been hearing this, and I've been hearing from any one of us that isn't a veteran about how veterans aren't with this. I'm one. Let me finish. Every veteran that I've talked to is on board with this. Now I understand, and guess what? We are not a monolith. We all have different opinions, different aesthetics, and things of that nature. We even said that we do not want it just all of the hometown heroes, that we will intermingle them with different things. It is not an all or nothing. And it upsets me. It upsets me that this is what we're having, all or nothing. Now I understand some concerns, but how can we get to yes? Wait a minute, let me finish, and I will absolutely let you finish, Kim, because Kim, I respect your opinion exponentially. I really do. You know that. You know that. Instead of saying, okay, they're vinyl, at any time, if they come and say, well, are there other materials that we can, can I get involved in the process? Instead, we went to businesses and said, well, do you want this or that? Can we have both? Are there ways that we can aesthetically have these downtown? It is often how we say things and how we put things that how people answer. I'm sorry that I'm upset about this, but this is when I brought this to this committee last year. I'm serious. I was awestruck that there was any controversy in any way, shape, or form. The only thing I have to say in conclusion is I hope we can find a way to get to yes and to work with us to find these and I heard different also, hey, you know, my uncle wouldn't have or my brother wouldn't have. This is what we have. We're asking the families of veterans to send that to us. If you don't want to be on it that way, that's fine. Your family doesn't want to be on it that way, that's fine. Don't send it. Only families that want their loved ones honored in this way.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Are you done, Joe?
I'm sorry, Mike.
All right, Dennis, we'll hear from you. I'd like the board to if anyone has any further questions or initial comments, we're not voting on this tonight. I'd like to hear from them, and then I'd like us to move forward because you know, there's a lot of discussion here, but we've got other business to do. So, Dennis.
Yes, I don't think I'll be spending here as late as you folks were, and I really miss that. Thanks for the statistics thing there. It reminds me of, and I don't mean to be offensive to this, but one of our beloved Hartford residents, a former teacher, I didn't have him much after my time, but Paul Keene used to say, to quote, there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. And I love that. And so I'm sensitive to what you said, but I keep that in mind too. So how do we move forward? I've heard from the board that you may want to come up with a policy for the banner or flagpole or the light poles rather. So.
You've only
would
heard
you-
that from me, I think, so far. I don't know if anyone else, but.
Well, I heard that.
For the board.
Is, I'm trying to think what, I love Mr. Major and I love the fact he says, how do we get to yes? And that's what we're trying to do here, at least my group here is. I wouldn't be anything without him. So how do we move forward? Do you want to, you folks decide, of course, but do you want to come up with a policy and then come back and approve this with whatever the policy says, or look at it again, or how do we move forward?
Can I ask a question?
Yep, go ahead, Sue.
I haven't heard that there's any other group requesting this. So would a policy be a solution to a problem we don't have? I'm serious, because I don't like wasting my time. Okay, and so if nobody else is asking for it, then we should resolve it on this issue here.
Yep.
Fine, and first, just to, Joe is left, but just to respond to his comment, I think there absolutely is room for compromise and that we can get to yes. I don't have any questions about that. Like, I think we will get there. And there was another group working on one. That's when I read that email from Lori. It was to the group working with Vital Communities to do a banner. And then there was a second group that wanted to do a banner. And that's when she said, there's more than one group that wants a banner and we should establish a policy. So that's what that.
And that is still actively going on if they come to the board?
It can, basically, at that point, the group decided to discontinue the effort and work toward beautification in ways toward plantings and things instead, and skip the banners
So we
altogether.
still have one group. We have one group who's looking for this.
Who has made a request, yeah.
Okay.
Peter, do you have something?
Yes. Are you, is that all right, Dennis? Are you?
Please.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for taking time to speak with me the other day. I really appreciate you making time for that. And I didn't realize you were also the commander of the American Legion. So thanks for your service in that regard too. I am curious about your use. You mentioned that there isn't formal support from those organizations. Yeah, I would love to know more about that. I don't know if that's for tonight or for another conversation. I think, I've also heard from folks that, that we want something that unites the town. And I've heard from everyone's comments and passion that, honoring and respecting veterans and our loved ones and our family members and our ancestors is something that unites us. Unfortunately, and I know your committee didn't want this, but the form of banners is not uniting us. Clearly, there's different views on that, and people feel strongly on either side. So that's maybe just recapping what we're talking about, but I just wanted to frame it in that way. I also wanted to respond a bit to I'm sorry, you're in the blue sweater. What was your name?
Lauren.
Lauren. What part of what you said resonated with me. So, I do work for the VA, and I've dedicated my career to advocating for the health and well-being of veterans. And in that work, we're collaborating with the primary care social workers. And there's just an astounding amount of suffering and struggling that veterans in our community are, as you know, are experiencing. And some of the most prominent concerns you hear are related to, financial strain and social isolation. And so that is part of what I'm reflecting on as I see the passion and the dedication and the commitment that you have as veterans and as members of our community who have come together and organized yourselves to make a positive impact. And part of me is wondering, like, what else are you doing? What else could you be doing? Because the energy and commitment is really amazing. And, I think of veterans who live here, who, are under financial strain. They don't have access to the benefits they deserve. They need assistance to navigate that process. I know some of our veteran service organizations and veteran service officers are a key element in that process, and partnering with social workers to help make that happen. Social isolation is a huge problem as well. As many of you know, there's a Surgeon General's report that highlighted that recently. And people are discharged from the VA and sent to their homes without the care and support that they need to be there, but they don't have family and they don't have and there's not enough home health aides, and it's, there's a million problems. But I think of a committee like yours with this dedication. I'm sure you already do work in this community. I know that you do. But I'm like, what if this committee was organized to visit the homes of veterans who may be dangerously isolated? So those are some of my reflections in the perspective I bring from the work that I do. And I really am interested in finding a compromise or a solution that is, where we can get to the yes, as Joe was saying. And I did ask some of those questions and propose that, is the committee open to a shorter time period? I think that could be a key part of getting, to a solution that people are amenable to. And then also comments about the vibrant arts community in our town. And are there other creative ways that we can honor veterans that speak to the character and vibrancy of the local artists that we have here, as well as the veterans in our community?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I held off on speaking here. There are those in this community that may say that I'm going to approach this with a bias because I am the only veteran that serves on this board. I am the commander of the VFW here in White River Junction, and I proudly served in the military for over 20 years, combined service between the U.S. Navy, Navy Reserve, and the Army National Guard. I want to back up a bit here and say that the idea of hometown heroes has absolutely nothing to do with the war effort, has nothing to do with the war machine, with war spending, the budget that's put in place for it, has nothing at all to do with that. What hometown heroes is a way to honor those veterans that have served our country and given us the values of liberty, self-governance, equality, individualism, diversity, and unity. That's what the values that every American can rally around. All right. We have these great things in the town of Hartford, such as Juneteenth, that we celebrate outside here. We throw a parade for Gay Pride Week. All right. We put up a Gay Pride banner, a flag on the flagpole in the town of Hartford. We have the 4th of July. All of these things were brought about by the sacrifices of American veterans who have died and fought alongside their brothers and sisters in battle to give us these things that we have as Americans and as Hartford residents. Why would we not want to honor these people that have sacrificed so much? When you join the military, you do not join the military to go off and, be a warmonger or to be, the guy that everybody I know at least did not join the military to go off and be a warmonger. We join because we want to look after our brothers and sisters in arms. That's the guy on my left, the woman on my right, who I'm going to serve in battle with, that I'm going to defend. They're out there trying to do the same job that I am. They're trying to defend our country and give us these values that we have. Nowhere else in the world do we have these values that are given to us in America. Nowhere else, but Americans have that through the sacrifices of veterans. All right. I'm not out there to get my name and my picture on a banner in the town of Hartford. All right. That's not what I want. Maybe if I'm deceased and somebody wants to put it up there, that's fine. But while I'm a member of this town and still living, I don't want my picture up there. I don't want to be saluted like that. But what I do want to see up there is people that have served in World War II. Those are the people that we need to honor, right? People that have served in Vietnam, we need to honor. The people that are first responders, Eddie Levitt from our police department, who served this town numerous years, all right, as a person in our police department. Walt Moranci, who served as a chief of the fire department for many, many years in this town. All right. He deserves to be honored and recognized. We have people like Wesley Black that died. He served both our country and served on our fire department. He died as a result of injuries that received serving our country and still came back and served the town of Hartford. How can we say we're not willing to honor these people that have done so much for us in our town and our country? I'm ashamed to sit alongside of you and think that you're not willing to share the glory that I have in honoring my fellow veterans that have done so much and are willing to sacrifice so much. When you join the military, you sign on the line with an honor that is up to and including your death for your country. Everyone that signs on in the military, that dotted line, is willing to sacrifice their lives. And we need to, it just boggles my mind how you cannot support, somebody that's willing to serve and give you all the freedoms that you have. I'm sorry, this is just beyond me how this can be this way.
All right, we're going to finish this up and take a break in a minute. I'd like to report that I have not heard a single person tonight say that they do not honor or respect veterans. That is not the question. We do respect our veterans. We do honor them. The question is whether this is the appropriate way to do it. With these banners, which you can see on the website, are sold by an outdoor decor company. Are these really the quality and aesthetics that we want? Is this the best way to honor our veterans? The way we get to yes is we don't necessarily lock ourselves into place with this type of banner, and we discuss how long they're up for, where they are, and all those other considerations. I think we've spent a lot of time tonight, appropriately honoring and respecting our veterans, but that's not really, the question. Everyone wants to do that. The question, are these particular vinyl banners the best way to do it? And as chair, I am calling for us to move on to the next item. I think it would behoove everyone to take a break. So I will see you all back here at 7:55. next item is the CSO Grant Application. I will send that over to John, or if Chris is here to discuss that.
I believe we should have Brian and Chris available to present that matter. Is that true?
John, Brian's here. Chris, I think I know well enough to answer the questions tonight, so I allowed Chris to have it off. So
Great. Thanks, Brian.
So just welcome to the new board members. You're actually coming, this is what we're talking about tonight, is sort of kind of in the middle of a smaller project that we do. And you'll see the term CSO, which means combined sewer outflow. These are systems where you have actually sanitary and stormwater utilizing either the same catch basins or the same lines. So what we're looking at, that's what we're talking about tonight, is a small project that's going to separate, making sure that either stormwater doesn't come in through the catch basins themselves and get down to the plant at White River Junction. And just a little history with this is that this is even prior to my time here. The funding, the grant application that we're putting forth tonight is state ARPA funding. So we put in for it, we were allocated $200,000. We've actually already executed the grant application for this. Now the state's coming back and asking us to put an application in, so it's a little quirky. We're sort of kind of done the first part of it to get the grant, and now they're asking us to put this grant application in. So that's what we're asking for tonight. So this is about $215,000 project. $200,000 of it would be ARPA funding, and then the other $15,000 we would look to come out of the 60 fund reserve, which is the White River Junction wastewater treatment plant fund for that. So what we're looking for tonight to do is just to approve the grant application. Then you have to sign for it. And then I did notice on the agenda, and John, I don't know, my authorization to be an alternative representative.
Yes, that's right.
Is that the last thing on the agenda? Because I know our memo, I think, addresses.
No, those are different matters, Brian.
Okay.
We have other things that those represent. But yeah, the CSO discussion should include both the application and the authorization for Brian to sign off on behalf of the DPW folks.
And then also too, John, were you able to get the actual CSO to the board members? I had sent that later before this afternoon. I don't know if they've had an opportunity to actually look at the document, which should just show you the cover page of it. This is what we're working under. We're actually under a state, if you want to call it, consent order, a 1272 order to do this work. So we have to do this work, and that's why they sort of provided us the funding for that. But this is a thicker document, and I did send it to John. And
if I got it late, if I came late this afternoon, I have not seen it. I've been out.
Yeah, I sent it out this afternoon, John, to you. So if you want to forward that to the board members, it'll give you more of that overview of what needs to be done. There's 2 phases. We're looking to do the first phase, which is outlined as separation, putting some new catch basins in that have infiltration. There is one project that's about 300 and some feet of new lines to go to another catch basin. And then the phase 2, which is not addressed in this, and which we currently don't have funding for, which really still also needs to be designed, is Maple Street and some issues we have on Maple Street with stormwater and whatnot. So all we're looking for tonight is to get approval so that we can get the grant application in, so we can finally, secure the funding and get this project moving forward.
Thanks, Brian. Are there questions for Brian?
Does everyone know Brian got the?
Brian, guys.
Sorry, Brian, Director of Public Works.
Mr. Collins.
Yeah, we're trying to fix Maple Street here, and I understand the need for that. We still have pooling water on South Main Street. And how are we gonna go ahead with a project on Maple Street for stormwater when we put all this money to South Main Street?
Well, Lanny, I hear what you're saying on that, but the 1272 order addresses this area, which we have to deal with. So if we still have issues on South Main Street, then we just have to look at that. But that'll be separate. We have to address the issues on Maple Street.
But I haven't seen this package you sent, John, obviously. Is there detailed information on what sort of mitigation there's going to be in terms of placing new lines on Maple Street?
Yes.
And
how the road grade
it's identified.
There's some drawings, but we haven't really gotten to the point yet where Chris has designed exactly what we're gonna do for Maple Street.
So there's no idea as far as road grades or anything in that.
Correct, as of yet, so. But we're just looking to complete there's like 5 or 6 projects under the phase 1 portion of it. Most of it is putting in new catch basins where they have their own infiltration, say dry well type of system. And then there is one where we have like 325 feet identified of new lines in to get the water away, so.
Any other questions for Brian?
Yeah, Laney, are you saying, is there water pooling on the new section of South Main Street?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I just really have a problem with moving ahead with new projects when old projects that we've put thousands of dollars into are still not,
Millions.
still not effective.
What area, where's the pooling at? Where on South?
Big fatties right in front of
Okay.
fatties right in front of the new in front of cover. There's water pooling sidewalk.
Okay.
Every time it rains, you go after drive down the street and see water pooling there. You know, it hasn't been addressed. I mean, it's just I don't have a problem with this whatsoever. Okay, and I'm going to vote to approve this, but it just bothers me that we put millions of dollars into stormwater and fixing the stuff up, and we still leave it not working the way it's supposed to work. You know, it's just ridiculous.
Well, when you get to it, I wasn't here for that project. But when you
I
get-
understand that, Brian. I'm not
No,
blaming
but
you,
when you
but
get to a project like that, then it's coming down to the grading. You know, why isn't that water running to those catch basins that are there, right? And then that's an issue we just have to go back and take a look at and figure out what we need to do now to rectify that so the water gets to the catch basins they're supposed to go to.
Are there any other questions on the particular matter at hand?
The 18,700 comes out of the 215, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
it's not in addition. to-
Correct,
okay,
correct.
Chris answered.
And it's
my
under the
question.
$20,000 threshold for
Yeah.
that, so.
Okay, perfect. Ready to make a motion?
so this has been, there's a pool of money for this, correct?
What's that?
There's a pool of money for this?
200,000 is the ARPA funding, and then
Okay,
we have the other 15. I mean, this is the engineer's probable estimate. We're anticipating it should come in less than this. And if it does, we have the full, 100% ARPA funding if it comes in less than that.
Okay, so where's the 18.5 slated to come out of right now?
Well, it's 15,000 that we would need. So
Okay.
we would probably I could take a look at it. We get going then. Do I have the money in this year or next year in the 60 fund already for that? We may be able to do that. If not, I'll just take a look at with Gail and John and take a look at reserves.
So it's all that enterprise funds, basically.
Right.
Okay.
I'll take a motion if no more questions.
Mr. Chair, I move that the select board approve and sign the step 2 Clean Water State Revolving Fund Loan Application and appoint Brian Gadsda, Director of Public Works, as the authorized representative to sign any other necessary documents related to step 2 CWSRF loan application in any absence of the town manager.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, if not, I will call the roll. Kim?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Lanny?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. All right, thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is to discuss the utility assessment. And I think we might have Rick for this one.
Yes, for the next 2 matters.
All right, great. Well, Rick, if you're ready, take it away.
Good evening. I'm Rick Vincent, the town assessor. So I'll give a little very brief history for the newcomers in case you don't know. So the town of Hartford is scheduled to do a townwide reappraisal in 2025. We've already contracted with Tyler Technologies for the general reappraisal work. But we do need a utility expert appraiser to value some of the utilities, and that's namely the Wilder Dam and the Dewey's Mill Dam. I provided in the documents a little spreadsheet. It's labeled, titled 2025 Utility Valuation Proposals. So I'll go over the, we had three outfits bid on the utility valuation of the two dams. It got a little complicated, and it was because I wasn't aware at first of the Dewey's Mill Dam, and I wasn't aware. There's also the transmission lines and the distribution lines that have to be valued, but there is. This is where it gets complicated. There is a bill before the state legislature to have the state value the transmission and distribution lines. Brian Fogg, who's one of the bidders for the dams, Brian Fogg, from what I understand, was contracted with the state to value the transmission and distribution lines. So there's no sense in having those valued, having us pay to have those valued when the state's going to be doing it anyway. So when I first sent out the request for proposal, the RFP, I requested proposals for the valuation of the transmission and distribution lines and just the Wilder Dam. So when you look at the spreadsheet, the utility valuation proposals under Sanssouci Associates, in the left-hand column there says Wilder Dam and T&D, which is the transmission and distribution lines. Sanssouci Associates proposed a total of $114,000, and that would be the valuation of the Wilder Dam and the transmission and distribution lines every year for 5 years. And the vast majority of the cost of that work would be in the Wilder Dam, but that cost is spread out evenly over the 5 years. So what would happen would be in the revaluation year, the reappraisal year, he would value the dam, value the transmission and distribution lines. Then in the subsequent 4 years, it would just be an update to those values to see if there's any changes in the inventory. So for transmission and distribution lines would be new poles being put up, maybe new, I'm trying to remember what else is valued, new substations, work on the substations. So that the vast majority of the cost is in the first year, but it's spread out evenly. So they have even payments over the 5 years. But it's $114,000 for all that work. So after I sent out that RFP, that's when I learned about the Dewey's Mill Dam and the legislation before the state on the transmission and distribution lines. So I requested that Sanssouci Associates revise their proposal. So he came back with the value on the right-hand column. It says Wilder and Dewey's Mill Dam, $18,800 per year for 5 years, $94,000 total. So that's just valuing the two dams, but that's updating them every year. If there's any changes, you would update the value. I also received a proposal from Federal Appraisal LLC. I think they were out of New York. And that was just for the Wilder Dam at $35,000. The third proposal was from Brian Fogg LLC. He proposed $27,000 for Wilder and Dewey's Mill Dams. That's just doing the value for the 1 year, the reappraisal year. So I asked him about subsequent years and if any changes would have to be made. And he said, well, possibly, it depends if they make any changes, but there aren't a lot of changes to the dams, and that's simple to do anyway. He seemed to indicate that I'd be able to do it on my own. I'm not a dam expert, but he said I could probably do it on my own. It's a simple formula. So out of the three proposals, Brian Fogg had the lowest price of $27,000. So my recommendation is to contract with Brian Fogg to appraise the two dams, Wilder Dam and Dewey's Mill Dam. And I do have a motion. I'm not sure how you want to handle this. I've also have one other topic to discuss, and that is.
Can I ask a question, Rick?
Sure.
How is your low bid affected, if at all, if Montpelier does pass legislation that says they're going to do this valuation for the towns? Does it render that RFP null and void and we're off the hook, or what's the impact?
Well, that would only affect the Sanssouci Associates proposal at the $114,000 total. The
Okay.
Brian Fogg and Federal Appraisal proposals do not include the transmission and distribution lines.
I got it. Thank you.
So we do have the other topic of
Just a second, Rick.
oh,
Question.
yep.
What is the bonding aspect that none of them have? What is the purpose of bonding? You must have asked for that, correct?
I didn't ask for bonding. Bonding would be if they fail to do the job properly, then the town would get reimbursed for any expenses. I have to go through the proposals. I don't remember seeing anything about bonding. I don't remember discussing that at all with any of them. So I can certainly check into that.
So I guess the question would be, Brian Fogg has done this for the state of Vermont on other transmission lines. Has there ever been a problem in the past if we're looking to utilize Brian Fogg for this again?
Well, Brian just contracted with the state.
Just barely.
So the state's always valued, or at least for a long time, has valued the transmission and distribution lines. So that's what he's contracted.
Themselves. So this is the first time that Brian has taken this on, correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, Brian Fogg used to work for Skip Sanssouci Associates. Brian, for a long time, Brian went out on his own, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago.
I have a quick question, if that's okay. This is not any kind of accountability type question. It's more just like an informational question due to my ignorance here. And I guess if we're gonna spend 27,000 as a town to reassess the value of the dams, could you just give me kind of a general order of magnitude of the revenue that the town gets from the dam, sort of like per unit time, per year or per?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the revenue is, but that has nothing to do with this. We have to appraise the dam regardless of what we get the revenue.
Another point to bear in mind is that all of this work would be funded through an account that is filled each year by the state. These are not taxpayer funds used for the revaluation.
May I say something? This is Ida. I did learn last night that the tax revenue that we get from the dam is just under $1 million per year, like 900 something.
Just from the Wilder Dam?
Yes, from the Wilder Dam, right? Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like $5,000 or something. And I mean, I wouldn't think that you would authorize 27,000 and the revenue is only 5,000. But that's really good information.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not anywhere near 5,000. I'm not sure about the $1 million.
It's 900 something.
Yeah. But again, this is something we have to do. Even if it's costs more than we collect, we still have to do it. We still have to value them.
Okay. Any other questions? Rick?
You want to approach this in two different motions?
Yeah, I think that would be.
Yeah.
Yes, that's clear.
There is a motion for each one on my agenda memorandum.
Yeah, let's take them separately. The motion.
I can make a motion. I move to accept the Brian Fogg utility appraisal proposal of $27,000 as part of the 2025 townwide reappraisal project.
Okay, do we have? Right, we have a motion and a second.
Ida moved it, Kim seconded.
I will call the roll. Kim?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Lanny?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. All right, so that motion passes, and we have a second motion if someone would like to make that.
William?
Well, there's some explanation about it first.
Sure.
Yep, go ahead.
So I had briefly mentioned this in a prior meeting. Norm Bernache, who is the assessor now in Hanover, New Hampshire, has extensive experience with the vision assessing system that we use. He worked for Vision many years ago. He's been working within their system for 30 or 40 years. He's very familiar with the reporting system, very familiar with the tables, and the tables are what generates the value. So he offered to act as a consultant and work with Tyler Technologies and with me on producing the proper reports out of the system. His proposals for a fee of $10,000. That, in my opinion, it's money well spent to make sure that Tyler is doing their job properly and all the proper reports are being generated to verify what Tyler is doing, to make sure that they're doing their job properly.
So question about this is, has this gone out for an RFP process?
No,
So if we're not following the town's guidelines in terms of RFP process, I don't know if we can go ahead with it.
Well, how much is this for, Rick?
$10,000.
It's under the threshold for select board action, I believe.
For request for proposal?
What is the threshold for,
I believe it's $20,000.
that doesn't have to go for an RFP?
I believe that's right. Or it doesn't have to go for select board approval. I think Rick is approaching this with the select board since he had another item. Was that your thinking, Rick?
Yes. Yes.
Did you speak with Gail about this to see if?
No, I spoke with John about it.
Okay.
There is money in the budget. It'll be coming out of the reappraisal budget.
Want to make sure we're going about this in the right process, that's all.
Yes.
Any other questions for Rick?
Let me just confirm the purchasing policy. Oh, never mind. Oh.
I suppose some of that discussion, Lanny, has to do with whether there are other people able to bid on this requested service. I don't know that Rick would be aware of any others who can similarly translate between Vision and Tyler Technologies. So it could be a single source situation. Is that how you would see it, Rick?
I don't have any problem with that. I just want to make sure that we follow the town's proper RFP procedures in regards to going for contracting with someone.
Yeah.
And honestly, like if it does, we would still need to do, even if it's a single contractor that's qualified, we would need to waive the purchasing policy in order.
Yes, that's right.
I'm trying to find the amount here.
4,001. You need 3 bids after 4,001, and then after 20,000, you need an RFP.
After $4,001,
Pardon?
after $4,001, you need 3 bids.
You need 3 bids.
So we don't have 3 bids. So we have to waive the policy then if we want to move ahead with this.
Purchase of goods and services between $501 and $4,000 in total price shall be made by departments directly through the finance. Purchases of goods and services with a total price between $4,001 and $20,000 require on the approval on the purchase order by the department head, town manager, and finance director prior to order placement. The purchase order. Okay, so it's over 20,000 that needs RFPs. So,
But still has this gone through the finance director?
Right. So I suppose you could fashion your motion to be subject to the approval of the town manager and the finance director, and we can run that by Gail with the single source argument tomorrow.
Anyone like to make that motion?
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move that the select board accept the Norm Bernache
Bernache.
proposal of $10,000 to act as a consultant for the 2025 townwide reappraisal project and authorize the town manager to sign the associated contract with Norm Bernaschi upon approval of the finance director,
Subject to approval by
subject to approval by the finance director.
and town manager.
He's gonna sign it anyway, so.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a second. Any discussion?
Would you
Yeah.
send that document to me, please? Would you send that document as far as the numbers?
It's the purchasing policy, it's on the website. I'll send it like.
All right, I'm gonna call the roll then. Kim,
Yes.
Sue,
Aye.
Ida,
Aye.
Brandon,
Aye.
Lanny,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. All right. So the next item is the retention of the vision consultant.
We've done that just now.
Oh,
Yeah,
I-
that was-
oh, there were two motions on one.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Keep
right.
up. Gotta keep up.
So the next item is the continued discussion of select board liaison assignments. We have the list in the packet. I think they're all correct.
I
Well-
just had it as a placeholder, Mike, because we do have three extraordinary applications from select board members. I think the new liaison policy requires applications for the H. Corey and the Housing and Homelessness boards, and those are in your packet. Those are the only three applicants we received, two for the H. Corey
Right.
and one for Housing and Homelessness.
Yeah, and I think there was still a question about the Parks and Rec Commission, but Mary's not here. So we'll wait and see how that shakes out. But we do have the three applications.
I wonder if someone wants to make the motion to approve that slate of Mary and Kim on H. Corey and Brandon on housing and homelessness.
I don't know if we can really act on this as Mary's not here to speak on her behalf in regards to this.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the board's prerogative. I'm happy if we put it off till the next meeting and we move to Kim and Brandon's applications. Any objection to that?
Curious, would the motion be like to approve the appointment as select board liaison to the X committee for their remaining term or just for 1 year? Like until the
That was a question raised by Lana today, that some of those select board members appointed might not continue in service beyond the next town meeting.
I think we should trigger it by each organizational meeting probably, right? Like so each election, so I don't know if we can determine that specific date. Maybe we do it until March 1st, 2025 or something like that. Does that make sense?
Voting day, yeah.
Yeah, we could just say it until voting day 2025. Does that sound reasonable?
I think that sounds reasonable. Well, Kim, I've got your application up first here. Do you want to tell us about your interest in being appointed to H. Corey?
So before we do there, are we going to appoint two people to H. Corey or are we going to appoint one person to H. Corey?
Well, we're not going to take Mary's up until she's present at the next meeting.
That's my question is it fair to move forward if we're only going to put one person forward and Mary's not here to speak on her application?
It does say 2 seats.
Well, that's the question I guess I had
Yeah,
based
I
on,
mean, it says there are 2 seats.
there were 2 seats.
First column.
If appointed, I've spoken to a couple H Corey members about this, that like I don't think we can just change that. The committee would have to basically come forth and do a charge change. Like we just updated it a few months ago. They just updated their charge a few months ago to add the student. Anyway, I think the committee is receptive to changing the constitution in their charge to include just one school board member and one select board member and to consider them not being voting members, in which case we could do away with this part of the process. But I think in this position, as their charge stands right now, their committee includes 2 school board members and 2 select board members that are voting members. So until their charge is changed, which I fully advocate for, I think we need to just go with 2 members to be appointed. Does that sound reasonable?
If the charge is currently that's fine.
Okay, we have a hand up on. Okay, we have a hand up on Zoom. We can bring over Michelle Boleski, and then Kim, if you'd like to tell us about your interest in being on H. Corey, please do so.
Okay, go ahead, Michelle. Hey, this is Michelle Boleski, White River Junction. So I think that you need to really discuss the charter and change with the school board since it's a joint committee. And I think you should hold off on appointing anyone because that committee is having a hard time making quorum and meeting. And they need to really revisit what they need to do, what both boards want them to do. And there's a lot of influx. So I think you should wait. And I think it's ridiculous to have two board members from each entity when people aren't showing up. And anyway, that's my opinion, and you can take it or leave it.
Thank you, Michelle. Kim, would you like to tell us about your interest in H. Corey?
Well, I don't disagree with Michelle. I mean, if we want to just put a pause button on this, we can. I don't know what impacts it would have on the committee itself. Like seems like if they don't have appointed members, that they'll still be able to make a quorum if they have a majority of the existing members. So it's not going to risk their quorum. I'd be happy to just attend meetings as a community member without being an official liaison to ask them if they would be interested in revising their charge.
Well, right now, right, we've got 2 open seats for H. Corey, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, whether they may never change anything.
Yeah.
I don't know why we wouldn't just go ahead right now.
I'm happy to go ahead and then, but try to, if that is the will of the board, I'm happy to bring that to H. Corey, that we would like them to consider changing the Constitution. Do we have consensus for you to represent the board that way?
Folks,
So just to be clear, you're asking for our opinion as to whether the board thinks this committee should reduce the number of board liaisons from 2 to 1?
Yes, and make it a non-voting seat.
And make it, okay. And
which is the common, you saw how liaisons were assigned the other night.
Right.
It is uncommon. It's the housing committee and H. Corey are the only 2 committees that were charged with voting select board and school board liaisons. In the case of H. Corey, they have both school board and select board.
So I guess my question is actually on Mary's behalf in that she's not here to, because like I just want to know how you and she had discussed, because if there's only 1 seat eventually, then like only one of you would get on it officially.
That's an excellent point. Glad you bring that up. I mean, I would be happy to defer if Mary wants to be on the committee and there's only 1 seat. I will relinquish that to her, and still, I mean, I've been attending meetings as a community member anyway. I
think that's a good question, but it's hypothetical. It's not really what's before us, right? We have 2 open seats to fill on H. Corey, and I think that we should do that.
All right. I'm happy to answer any questions, or I've served on H. Corey for a few years previously, and then gave seats up to other people over a period of years. And now that there's an opening, I'm interested in just serving with the committee again, and I support the work that they do, and happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Any questions for Kim? Okay, I would take a motion up. Michelle put her hand up. Michelle, you can come over and ask your question. Michelle?
Rating. You can go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm not on.
You are on, I think.
No, I'm not on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I guess you didn't disconnect me. So I have a question for all of you. Who on this board has gone to a Corey meeting? Who on this board understands what the committee is about. Mike, have you gone to any of the meetings?
I have not. That's why I'm not putting myself.
How long
up.
have you been on the board?
I've been on the board for 3 years.
3 years, and you've never gone to an Acori meeting?
Yeah, I have not.
No, you haven't.
It's kind of
So,
irrelevant.
so excuse me, it isn't irrelevant. I think it's
it is irrelevant.
And I think you should take the time to learn about the committee before you're in a rush to appoint people.
If we're not in a rush, we've had.
Yeah, you are in a
We've
rush.
gone-
You are in a
Well,
rush. Everyone
please,
else is asking
keep it
you to
civil,
take your
please.
time. I am being civil. I
Okay.
am being civil.
Okay, thank you.
Go to
Michelle.
a meeting and check it out.
Okay, thanks. Anything else?
No.
Okay, Kim, I think we had a question. Does any of the board members have a question for Kim?
Sure, I'll just ask a question. So Kim, if the board, if you and Kim, Mary are both appointed and then the committee decides that they want to revise their whatever, rules, constitution, would that take place immediately? And then would you then potentially like step out of your, you would just resign your responsibility? And so that would be possible. Like that change could happen within the course of a year whenever the committee decided to make that alteration. Okay.
Okay. I'd be happy to take a motion if someone would like to make one.
I move that Kim Souza be appointed by this board as our representative on the Harvard Committee on Racial Equity and Inclusion.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Ida.
Can I make a friendly amendment?
No.
For a term ending on voting day 2025.
Unless you're kicked off soon.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion?
Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Ida's the second. So I will call the roll. Kim?
Abstain.
You're going to abstain. Okay. Sue?
Yes.
Ida?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Lanny?
Yeah, sure.
And I will vote aye. All right. We're going to skip Mary, like we said. So we're going to go to Brandon, has put in an application for the Housing and Homelessness Committee. Brandon, if you'd like to sort of let us know what your interest is in the committee, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am interested in housing because I live in housing. It's not a cop-out. I think I've spent a lot of years working to build housing, but also to kind of think about how housing is built and what obstacles there are to folks living in housing that's adequate for their families and their budgets. I've also spoken to a lot of folks on the campaign trail, and they seem to think I'd be an okay slot for that. So that's about it, I think.
Sorry, any questions for Brandon by the board? If there are no questions, I will take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the select board appoint Brandon Smith as the select board representative to the Committee on Housing and Homelessness for a term ending voting day 2025.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, if not, I'll call the roll. Kim?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Brandon, do you wish to vote or abstain?
I'll abstain.
Okay, Lanny?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Aye, you mean? And I will vote aye. Okay, so we have done that. Our next item is the block grant for public safety complex heat pumps. We believe we might have Dana there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So Dana Clausen, Environmental Sustainability Coordinator for the town. As most of you probably know, we have a lot of stuff going on with buildings right now as part of the climate action plan, as part of the funding coming down from the feds. And also just a lot of our equipment is coming to its end of life cycle. And this is one of those projects that is part of the federal funding, and also it's just a continuation of transitioning the public safety building over to heat pumps, which has already started. Much of the fire department is already heated with heat pumps. So Hartford has been allocated funds through the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. This is a federal grant where the 10 largest municipalities in every state are eligible for this fund. So Hartford's one of the 10 largest municipalities in Vermont. That's why we're receiving this funds. It was decided last year that we would apply these funds towards the public safety building. Mike, this is the pre-application that you did last summer. It's actually taken that long for the state to get guidance together and get everything together. So you might remember it from then, but what we're looking to do is make the rest of the public safety building the conditioned space. So this doesn't include the 2 garage bays and the 2 offices that are out there as well, which is the deputy, I think it's the deputy fire chief, and then the mechanic have offices out there. This is just that main building there, but looking to transition that over to heat pumps. We got a preliminary quote from Alliance Mechanical for $85,000. The grant amount that we're going to be awarded is $75,380. This is not a competitive grant. All we got to do is submit the applications, cross the T's, dot our I's, and sign off that, you know, this meets the NEPA requirements and that we will follow the Davis-Bacon rules. So we will still need to put out an RFP. The quote we've got was just preliminary to see what the ballpark would be. And that's what I'm here to do tonight, is just ask you all for support and submitting that application and moving forward with this project.
Okay, do we have questions for Dana?
I suppose, I'm just curious how many kind of heads, heat pump heads would be installed in your estimation?
You know, I actually do have that number. I just don't have it off the top of my head. It's quite a few though. I mean, and it's both in the fire department area and the police department as well. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number of heads offhand.
And so the difference between what the grant is offering and what if the cost will be comes from your department's budget, or what's the other funding source? So
That'll be split between the fire department and police department's reserve funds.
So this is going to only get heat pumps for what areas of the building right now then, I guess?
So a lot of the fire department already have heat pumps.
Right.
This will get heat pumps for that the main portion of the building. So not including the garage bays.
Not including the garage bay.
Correct.
Not including the maintenance.
Correct.
Bays. Okay.
Correct.
So the other apparatus bays will now be heated by heat pumps. What you're saying, correct?
No, this goes into the, I assume you're familiar with the building.
I know, yeah. The
Yeah.
left side, you're looking at the building.
Yep.
The left side of the building is maintenance space.
Right.
Okay. So you're saying that's not going to get the maintenance space.
Correct.
Okay. But it will get the apparatus floor.
Yes.
Done. Okay. That's my question. Okay. Yep.
Other questions for Dana? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I move that the select board vote in favor of the town of Hartford submitting their application for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant and put those funds totaling $75,380 towards electrifying the heating and cooling system at the public safety building.
I'll second.
Great. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Kim?
Aye.
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Lanny?
I
And I will vote aye. Okay, thank you very much, Dana.
Thank you.
So our next 2 items, and John, I'll turn to you. I think they're pretty similar. Appointing
Yes.
authorized representatives to act on bond bank matters and to act on water and wastewater loans and grants.
Yes, Gail's been working with funders to update their records to reflect my arrival and to reflect Kim's new position on the board And these motions are needed to alert the funding agencies, in one case, the bond bank, and in the other, the state of Vermont, that we have other people than they have on their files now authorized to sign off on documents involving loans and grants. So the first of two motions would address the Vermont Bond Bank. And when that motion is made, unfortunately, we need to have all these 10 items reflected in the minutes. So if somebody would be willing to make that motion while reading those 10 different loans or pending matters. Similarly, we need that articulated in the minutes for the 5H motion so that anybody reading these minutes can see what has been done.
Okay, so that's the one, those are the ones numbered 1 through 10.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so we have, we'll need a motion. Sorry, we'll need a motion. Town manager, treasurer.
Mr. Chair,
Him and my, yes,
I move that the select board authorize town manager John Haverstock, town treasurer Joe Major, select board chair Mike Hoyt, and select board vice chair Kim Souza to act on the following Vermont bond bank matters. VMBB 2012 Series 1, VMBB 2017 Series 4, VMBB 2014 Series 3, VMBB 2014 Series 3, VMBB 2017 Series 3, VMBB 2020 Series 2, VMBB 2021 Series 1, VMBB 2021 Series 1, VMBB 2021-22 Series 1, VMBB 2022 Series 1.
great. Do we have a second?
Sure, second.
Okay, we have a second from Sue. Any discussion?
I'd like to commend Lanny for doing that. I appreciate it, Lanny.
Yes,
Thank you.
very nice. Very well done. Maybe he'll do the next one too. All right, so I'll call the roll. Kim,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Ida,
Aye.
Brandon,
Aye.
Lanny,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. Okay, so Lanny, you want to try it again?
I move the select board authorize town manager John Haverstock to act as authorized representative and authorize town manager Joe Major, select board chair Mike Hoyt, and select board vice chair Kim Souza to act as authorized alternate representatives of the following water and wastewater grants and loans from the state of Vermont. RF 3069, ARI 006, ARI 099, ARI 041, RF 3329, RF 1188, RF 1202, RF 1222, RF 3390, RF 1271, RF 1291, RF 3467.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I have a second with a friendly amendment. I'm just gonna replace the ARI with AR1 and AR.
How do I know if it's a one or an I?
Yeah.
Is it an I? It's an
Well,
I?
it appears to be an I compared to the one.
All right,
Six.
ARIs
Okay,
instead of AR
never
ones.
mind.
I rescind my friendly amendment. The second, thank you very much.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Kim,
Aye.
Aye.
Ida,
Aye.
Brandon,
I,
Lanny,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. All right, great. That brings us to commission reports. John, I think you're muted.
Thanks to Kim for catching that ARI typo. It's AR1, you're right.
Okay, thanks, John. All right.
Is it AR1? So I said AR1.
Yes.
All
I
right.
said AR1.
Back to commission reports. I know some of you members may not have any. Kim, do you have any commission reports?
I do not.
Sue, do you have any commission reports?
I don't.
Okay, Ida?
I went to the tree board meeting right before this. That counts as a section, right?
Mhm.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah, it was great to meet those folks. Grateful to them for having me at their meeting. Excited. Yeah, they're talking about planting native plants in Kilowatt Park, and that's it.
All right, thanks, Ida. Brandon, anything?
no, I think, we're just going to, on the design review board, we're just going to meet when there's another application to review. So, that's.
That sounds good. Lanny, anything?
I have nothing.
For the new members, if I could point out, Mike, we currently have a practice where select board members submit a very brief summary of their commission and board reports to Lana, my assistant, so that she can include them in the meeting minutes. We may revisit that policy going forward if we revise our rules of procedure, because as some people will tell you, those bits of information are also included in those board and commission minutes themselves. So this is somewhat redundant, but that's to be held for another time.
All right, thanks, John. I'll take a motion for the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I'd like to approve, the select board approve payroll ending 3/16/2024. Approve AP manifest of 3/15/2024 and 3/21/2024. Approve meeting minutes of 3/12/2024. And that's it.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
All right, we have a second. Any discussion? All right, I'll call the roll. Kim,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Ida,
Aye.
Brandon,
Aye.
Lanny,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. And then one final one, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second.
I'll second.
I will actually call the roll on this one too. Kim,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Ida,
Aye.
Brandon,
Aye.
Lanny,
Aye.
I will vote aye. All right, thanks, everybody. Take care.
One quick note, don't forget signatures, everybody. There's papers at the end of the table for select board signatures. Please do that tonight.
Great. Thanks, John. All right, till next time.